Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. Hope everybody is well. Hope you're all doing very well. Hope you've all had a lovely weekend. What have you been up to? Who's been hobbying? Who's been playing games? Who can't play games because they've got to stay at home? Yes, let's have a quick look in the chat and see how everyone's doing. So Lord Novus was in nice and early. Good evening to you. Peter Nicholas, see, I'll buy a 3D printer when they're able to print 3D printers. I don't think they're a million miles away, mate, to be fair. Lord Maiden was in as well, nice and early. Krabby Vision, hello Krabby, how you doing, mate? Pomsy's in as well, 6 in the head there. And Busey, Different Gear TV. This is good evening all. Make sure you put your debit credit cards away before Andy convinces us to buy 3D printers. I'm not trying to convince anybody. If anything, you might be trying to convince me because I'm not 100% sold yet. And that's kind of part of what tonight's chat's about. I mean, the topic is now the right time to buy. It's not that something suddenly changed in technology that I'm saying is now the right time to buy. It's more about, is it the right time to buy for me? And hence, through my experiences, does that kind of change your thoughts on it, either for or against? Let's have a look at a few other names. Mark Wright, hello to you, Mark. Gary Powell saying he's sorry being off the live streams, but felt I should put my 2 pennies worth in. Hello, Gary. Yes, people like yourself and Christian I can see there as well have a lot more experience when it comes to 3D printing, and I'm sure your help will kind of help me with the folks in the chat, and will also kind of shape the conversation tonight, I think, as well. Christian, hello, mate. How are you doing? The stuff that you've just been printing off, mate, for the folks in the BlackJack group. Awesome stuff, mate. Thank you very much for being a major part of the community. And of course, being our moderator on the live streams as well. Perkins Dearborn says, hey folks, very interested in this topic. Hello Perkins. I think essentially what happens is a lot of people are quite curious about 3D printing. And I think some people will tell you it's dead simple, and some people will tell you it's a whole new ball game and don't get sucked into it, and it's a hobby in itself. And I think there are kind of polarizing or opposite ends of the discussion about it. So I don't think anybody really kind of, and I include myself in this, don't necessarily know where to start sometimes when it comes to this kind of thing. So hopefully tonight's conversation will try and sort of open some of those things up. Steve Evans is in as well. Hello, Steve. Jeffrey Higdon's in. Hello, Jeff. How are you? Arnold said, is it plug and play yet? We'll kind of come on to that stuff, I think. Gary giving a bit more information about printers and stuff there as well. Tony Howell saying, hello, my lovelies. Hope you're all keeping well. Nice to see you, Mr. Howell. Blizzard's in as well. I've just saw that there. He's doing okay, fighting off a lot of back pain and a cough from the fires. I'm sorry you've not been well, mate. I hope you are feeling on the mend. Pagan Situations, hello to you. Dave McKay's in as well. Hello, Dave. Just going down. Spider Lord's rewiring his snake's light fitting while trying to keep an eye on the snake at the same time. We've got where was that one? I think it was Simon Parfit. Yes, it was Simon Parfit. Hello, mate. How are you? Mark Coxey as well. So he's just finished off some Dark Angels. He's going to post a pic in the Discord chat later. I look forward to it, mate. I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Dark Angel kind of colour scheme and stuff. Tony's in as well. Hello, Mr. Booth Leiden. How are you? Simon said he got the Mantic August today. I assuming that's the new stuff, mate. Is it the new stuff for Vanguard? I'm assuming you can use it in Kings of War as well. Krabby said he spent the afternoon in his man shed tidying and planning. There's something satisfying about a tidy workspace. You know what they say, mate? Tidy workspace, tidy mind. Honestly, it makes a huge difference. John Estel says, evening all, what would be the first thing you'd print if you could? I'll come back to that, mate. Remind me. Because that might kind of come into some of the reasons why I'm thinking of maybe picking one of these things up. Barry says, happy Monday. Hello, Mr. Kleiber. How are you doing? The legend that is Mr. Kleiber, who's shipping me out a copy of Blitz Bowl Season 2. Couldn't be happier, mate. Thank you very much. Arnold says, we are on our first holiday day. We are supposed to come over to the UK, but instead we are at 2 in the Netherlands. Or, well, less mountains. There's not that many mountains. I suppose there is some down the centre. I suppose there's not that many mountains in the UK, mate. But yeah, certainly more than there is in the Netherlands. Marco's in as well. Hello, Marco. How are you, mate? Spiderlord says he's got a 3D printer. He's trying to think what the first thing I printed was. I think everybody tends to print the test model. That's probably the first thing anybody ever prints. Yoakum in as well, saying good evening, folks. Not really my topic tonight, since I probably not try 3D printing until it's plug and play. Still, here I am enjoying another live stream. I will come on to this whole concept of plug and play, mate, because I'm just moving something around on my screen here. Because I don't think it's far off it, or it's almost as far as it's going to get, and I'll talk about what I mean by that. Steve Evans is in as well. Hello, Steve. Jason says, how much will a decent one cost you? I'll come on to some price on that as well, because actually that's part of the reason why I'm saying is now the right time. The entry level models, if you like, are not that entry level anymore. Like in terms of quality wise, and cost has really, really tumbled. And I'll come on to that kind of stuff in a bit. Christopher Warden, hello mate. Afternoon to you. John saying, anyone else get an ad for a 3D printer before this stream? Never had one before. That's just Google and their subliminal advertising, isn't it? Frantic's in, hello to you mate. We've got Stu McMurtry in as well. Looking forward to tonight's topic. Thank you for coming in mate. Hello Lord Novus. Jason said he's got a few games of God tier this weekend. Nice one mate. Which champions have you been playing? Paul Eamon saying he's had a bit of a brisk walk back from the village for this one, a subject close to my heart. I think it's one of those topics, mate, that people are either on board with, as in I already have a printer and I absolutely kind of love it type thing. I'm on the fence. I quite like the idea, or they're very much I just ain't touching it. It's not for me. I don't need an extra hobby type thing. So yeah, I think it just generates a bit of chat really. Person is working from home. It's 1 p.m. there. Oh, so it's at 8 hours behind. I tell you what, mate. Good afternoon. I hope work's not too bad this afternoon. Ortega's in as well. He says he can't stay tonight, but looks forward to the rerun. As always, folks, Tuesday I'll do a bit of a BlackJack clips thing. I'll kind of take down the main bulk of the conversation, the conversation that I'm having. But then obviously the live stream carries on and we discuss it, and you ask questions and I ask you questions. But the main kind of the bit I want to get across to kind of kick off the topic, that will go out tomorrow as a separate video as well. We've got James Brain. Good evening, sir. Jonathan Elgian as well. Hello. Dirk says 10 minutes left for the Lucifer episode. I'll hang on for you, mate. Don't worry. Lord Maiden saying BlackJack branded miniatures sold. One day, mate. Warforge. Hello, mate. He seems a bit of a learning curve, but he loves his. VJ saying morning all. He's running and will jump in the chat when he gets home. Enjoy the run, mate. I went out for a run again this morning, and I managed to. I'm basically doing the same kind of journey from my son's nursery to back home, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can do that whole journey without having to walk at any point, without having to stop for a walk. Today I only stopped once. That's the first time I've kind of managed to run that distance and only stop for a bit of a breather once. So yeah, I'm almost there. I'm almost getting back to some kind of level of fitness. Tony's saying, yeah, there's a 3D printer on Thingiverse. I knew I'd seen something made somewhere. Krabby says the printing is great. The ease of use, not so much. It's the smartphone issue all over again. Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. I know what you mean. Red Rose Wargaming. Hello, Anna. Congrats on the new role as well and your new job. Congratulations. James saying that you should replace that Rams helmet with a build one. So close, mate. But for a dodgy decision at the end of the game there, we were something like 30 seconds away or a minute away from snatching a win. Come back well in the second half, mate, but the Bills played well. Yeah, Spider-Lord saying it's a big learning curve, especially with the slicing. Yeah, I'll come on to that as well. Paul says got some thoughts on this, but it's hard to convey in 200 characters, I can imagine, mate. Vaughan Wood, good evening, mate. He says, for terrain, it's the way to go. Ender 3 is €160, so it would make its money back in no time. Honestly, if it was more plug and play, I'd get one for sure. There's loads of great items to be made with a 3D printer. But too little tech feeling to feel competent to get one. Luke's in as well. Hello, mate. The Tasty Brain Rain. Hello. Oh, is it Brain Drain? Brain Drain, I should say. Thank you very much. Hello, mate. Next time you come in. Let's skip forward a little bit. Andrew Fairbanks, hello to you. Wargaming Dad. His first print was an upgrade the fan duct. I've heard that, mate. Tony saying I will trade you a kidney for that copy of Blitzball Ball Season 2. Lord Novus he's seeing some crazy prices on Amazon. Bloggy's in as well. Christian's there saying Resin 3D print will never be plug and play. In my opinion, it'll always be pre and post processing. That's essential to get the models done, and he still loves the Elgo Mars. I think that's kind of what I want to talk about, mate, when I come on to that subject. Is it's about as plug and play as it's going to get, kind of thing. David Moffat's got a tank building day, working on a Team Yankee starter set. Where else are we up to? Luke's saying back to some level of fitness. I really enjoyed being a teenager. I used to run quite a bit, but yeah, it's been a long time since I did any kind of serious running. Before my little one was born, me and my wife used to do a lot of running together. And so what's happening now is we walk to nursery with him, and then we're running back together, and that's kind of giving me the motivation to keep going, I think. Gary's saying you run to the nursery. James Zorm, thank you very much, fella. He's saying certainly a lucky call at the end. Yeah, sometimes they go for you, mate. Sometimes they go against you. I'm happy at this point in the season to be 2-1, mate. That'll be all right for me. Yeah, it says, do you run to the nursery? How does your kid keep up? No, we run back from the nursery, mate. He's been maining Finvar, trying to learn his strategy. He wants to pick up some Grimgut because he looks so disgusting. He's meant to be pretty filthy as well, mate. Like not an overpowered way. He's a good model. Lobin's working his slow grow stuff as well. Tony says, didn't say it would be my kidney. Paul saying it's almost as plug and play as it needs to be. Yes, I know what you mean, mate. Luke saying, does anyone find Andy to be a bit quiet? I can't turn him up anymore. It seems a little low. Might be just my headphones. It might be your headphones, mate, because I've been playing around with it all day. All my new audio stuff. I think I checked it through my headphones. I've checked it back through the TV. I've checked it through my headphones coming back through the PC. I think it's all right, mate. I think it's okay. But let me know, folks, because I can turn it up a little bit. Yeah, Spider Lords. She's a bit quiet compared to other vids. I think what it is, when I do my normal videos talking to camera, I can do some kind of post-processing of the sound, so I can take out any background hiss, I can take out any kind of background noise. But what I'm finding is this microphone picks up a lot of background noise. So what I've found through, I bought some new audio sort of kit and stuff to kind of make it a bit more efficient. And what I've found is actually it's even just the humming of the PC, it picks up that kind of like that low kind of grade hum. So yeah, I mean I can turn it up a touch, but let me know if the background noise is a little bit. I'm just going up a little bit now. Let me know if the background noise is a little bit too much. Mark's in there, sounds great. Yeah, it's maybe on my kind of on the meter thing I can see up there. Any higher and it'll start a clip. So I think it should be okay. Right, I think what I'll do is I'll dive in. I'm going to switch over to the main screen and remember to press record this time because I didn't press record last week. Volume is fine, but it's crackling as hell. It shouldn't be crackling, mate. Honestly, I mean, I hope he's just joking about that one. I'm going to crack on anyway, regardless. Nobody's mentioned crackling. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is tonight's topic really is now the right time to buy a 3D printer. And for those that don't know, there are kind of two main types or two main commercial types of 3D printers. There are PLA printers, which basically sort of melt plastic and put the plastic down through a nozzle in layers. And then there are resin printers. And that is essentially what you have is you have a resin bath. And in the bottom of the bath is a clear plate with a UV light screen kind of thing underneath it, and it cures it through a screen which basically only lights up the part that needs to cure, and it gradually builds up the layers. So one keeps putting plastic on top of each other, and one is basically the model is basically being lifted out of a bath of resin, and the layers are being cured as it lifts. Not fully cured, but we'll come on to that in a bit. And the big difference between the two of them is that if you want to print something big, like some kind of terrain or bigger parts, the PLA, the plastic one, is probably the right way to go. If you want to build something or make something that has a lot more finer detail and is a little small, like sort of like miniatures of themselves, or it might be kind of bits of scatter terrain or something like that, then resin is probably the right way to go. Resin has a higher quality, but is a bit more tricky and a bit more sort of dangerous from the chemicals inside of things. PLA stuff, plastic, the quality is not as good in my opinion. I'm sure there's some really high-end stuff, but generally the stuff at consumer level, the quality is not quite as good. You see the mold lines, not mold lines, but the layer lines between them. So if you don't want to mess about kind of sanding things out and stuff afterwards, that's probably not the right thing for you. So for me personally, I've kind of already decided for me, I'm ruling out the PLA stuff. I'm not looking to build big bits of terrain. I'm not looking to build kind of huge sort of multi-part bits. For me, one of the things that's really kind of prompted this for me is the fact that, one, resin printers for home use have really come down in price now. So, for example, one of the ones that gets kind of quite a lot of good mentions, some good reviews, if you like, is the Elegoo Mars. There's a Mars Pro and there's a Mars Pro 2 and stuff. There's Elegoo Saturns as well, which are bigger ones. But this Elegoo Mars gets some really good write-ups. There's lots of community groups on Facebook and online, kind of like with troubleshooting and kind of support groups. And they're essentially about £180 now in the UK. You can pick them up from Amazon, for example. There's links down in the description here, so you can click on them and it takes you through, so you can have a look at them if you want to see what I'm talking about. If you do pick one up, it's through my affiliate link, and I will make a small commission on that, just to be completely transparent. But they are the quality of those, really, for the price, is fantastic. I've seen some really good sort of like miniatures printed with them. I've seen some fantastic bits of scatter terrain and stuff printed with them. And the quality of like the layer lines, if you like, as it's building up the layers, is almost, and I say almost non-existent. So if quality is something that I'm looking for, then that's one of the reasons that I've kind of gone down the route of looking at resin printers. The other reason that's kind of on my radar is, as this channel is, like you all know, this is my full-time job now, and I'm covering lots of different kind of games. I need lots of different types of terrain and stuff. And when I talk about terrain, it's not necessarily the big buildings, it's more the bits of scatter terrain, the things that make it look interesting. If I'm taking photographs of stuff to post on social media or to make for thumbnails and stuff, it's all of those like little bits and pieces that make it interesting. If I'm doing like some kind of gameplay or reviews of stuff, it's the things that's to scatter around the table that just make it interesting. Now, I can just go online, I can go shopping, I can buy these things, but that all costs money, of course, and it's not very cheap, because by the time you're buying a few small bits and pieces, sometimes the postage, the shipping is just as much to get it again. Then you have to wait for it to arrive. Some of these things come from kind of scattered around. I might be paying other people just to print these things off for me anyway, if I'm shopping on places like Etsy and stuff. So I'm starting to look at, is it more economical for me to be able to print them myself? The other side of it is I could scratch build these, I could do them. The downside of that is I don't really enjoy that kind of side of stuff. I'm not really into kind of scratch building terrain. And the other side of it is I'm already tight on time with what I'm doing, from kind of creating videos and everything else. And that already maxes me out time-wise. So if I was to take days out to kind of scratch build a few small bits of terrain, that's kind of that's a problem in itself. So essentially, I've sort of limited my viewpoint down to some kind of resin printer if I decide to go ahead and get one. And some of the things to consider is the fact it's not just buying a printer. You will have to buy the resin itself. You will have to buy nitrile gloves to protect your hands. It's not nice stuff. You'll want to put a mask on and potentially some safety glasses as well. Just, you don't want to get this in your eyes. You don't really want to get it on your skin. You need some isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol. So basically, once it has printed, you need to basically clean it up, clean the excess resin from it. You'll need containers for putting them in to clean them up and stuff, because you don't want to be handling them too much. You'll need some kind of UV light to cure them. Once the resin comes off, it's still quite pliable, it's quite soft, and it needs to be cured. You can kind of put it out in the sunshine, but I live in the northeast of England. We don't get a lot of sunshine. So you'll need some kind of UV light to cure it. You'll need spare release film. So the release film basically goes across the bottom of the bath and stuff. And this is where the actual UV light shines through to do the layers. You'll need some kind of grease to grease the actual the rods for the Z-axis for the lifting up and down. You'll need some grease for that, and you'll need things like microfiber cloths and stuff for cleanup and stuff. So there are some extra bits and pieces, but roughly pricing them up, it still comes in less than £300. And given the flexibility of these bits of machine, I don't think sort of £300 for all that kind of kit to get started is actually too bad. You will need some software. You tend to get software free with printers. Just a few printers I've been looking at. There's an Anycubic Photon, there's a Quiddy Shadow 5.5, and then there is the Elegoo Mars as well. Those are the ones I've kind of been looking at and looking around. the slicer software basically tends to come with the printers, and this is essentially what enables you to rotate and line up the model so that it prints from the print bed. It also allows you to print supports. So because things can't just be printed in thin air, if you like, because there's nothing there to kind of hold that print, it needs to print supports. And now the supports are literally just kind of resin rods basically which hold things in place while the whole thing cures, and they clip off really easily. You can either snap them off, you can clip them off with a little pair of clippers, but getting them right is an important part of 3D printing, and I'll come on to why people tend to say this is a hobby in itself, and it's a lot of it is around that part. You'll need the files to print off. There are places like Thingiverse where there's a lot of free files on there. There's lots of places online will give you free files. There are Patreons where people provide files and you can subscribe to them and get files every month. You can buy one-off files and stuff. So once you buy that file, you can obviously print as many of those things as you want to. So there is, as long as you're printing multiples of stuff, it's quite economical in that respect. One of the biggest things is time. It takes time to print stuff. These things tend to go a maximum of about an inch per hour. If you're trying to find like sort of an inch of printing in an hour's time frame, if you want to get a bit higher quality, you'll probably be turning down the kind of the sort of the gap in the level, not gaps, but the layer levels, if you like, and this will take more time. The only thing with that is that actually once you set it away, you should in theory be able to walk away and leave it. You will get some failed prints, so if you leave it for 7 hours and come back and it failed, you'll have to start all over again. But if I compare that to the alternatives, so the alternatives are basically buying stuff online. I'll have to spend time looking online trying to find the right things I want. I've obviously got to pay for them and pay for shipping as well, and then I have to wait. I have to wait for these things to arrive. They're not necessarily the kind of thing that come next day. They tend to be kind of strange one-off things, and if I'm looking for something a little bit unusual, that might take quite a bit of shopping about to try and find the right bits. If I compare that to scratch building, as I mentioned before, there's going to be a point in time where the time is being taken up by trying to build these things, where at least with printing I can kind of, in theory, press go and go away and do something else, whether that's recording a video, editing a video, painting models or whatever it is. That kind of thing is happening in the background. And again, this is one of the reasons I'm looking at it. Now, people will say that, well, I don't need an extra hobby. 3D printing is a hobby in itself. And I kind of get that. However, I do also liken it to food in general, right? So let's just talk about like sort of food. If you do not like cooking at all, you can order takeaway, right? You never have to cook anything. You don't have to prepare any food. You can just order takeaway. That's like buying your parts online. You've then also got things like just cooking a meal. Basically, I can prepare the stuff, cook the meal. Gary Powell, thank you very much for the donation there, mate. I'll come back to your comment there. Or you might want it as a bit of a hobby. You might really enjoy cooking, in which case you might want to kind of, buy some fancy equipment. You might create some fantastic meals, mix and match and stuff. At the end of the day, there's something there for everyone, and I think 3D printing can be like that. I think if you want to make it your hobby, you really can, and you might go down that rabbit hole of trying to fine-tune things and trying to do this and trying to do that and learning to sculpt yourself as well using sculpting software, and I think you can make it a hobby in itself. But I do also think that there's a bit of a middle ground where you can buy files that are already supported, so pre-supported, which cut down on the stuff that you need to do from the slicing software. You can get software that actually helps to build those supports, whilst you might still have to kind of have a little bit of trial and error. You will learn over time which of those supports work and which ones need to be added extra. And I think that's kind of where I see it. I think I could almost kind of sit in that middle ground of not wanting to go down the rabbit hole, but just using it as a tool. And I think that's probably something I'm going to ask tonight in the live stream. I think people do end up going down the rabbit hole. Some people that have been early adopters of this kind of technology have seen it as another hobby. There are some people who basically thought it was plug and play, and I could just basically switch it on and go from the off, and it wasn't. So they basically end up selling them or giving them away or whatever they do with them. I know there's going to be some setup in this. There's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be kind of some trial and error and some failed prints. But I think I can probably get to a point where it's just more of a tool rather than a kind of like a time suck of a hobby. It'll take some time up front, but I'll get there in the end. So that's what I mean about, is now the right time for a 3D printer? Is it the right time for me now? Has it got to a point where I can use it for what I need without it becoming basically a time sink of spending my entire life trying to kind of to get this small square box to print off kind of thing? Because when we talk about plug and play, you essentially you can buy files pre-supported, as I said. You can just download them onto your USB stick. You can plug the USB stick into the resin printer, and you can kind of press go. You can go online and you can find you other people may have done a lot of trial and error to get you some decent settings. So I think that there is a possibility of kind of not having to devote your life to 3D printing, if you like. So if you're a bit more interested in this and you want to find out more about kind of what the folks in the chat here who have a lot more experience have got to say, come on over to the live stream. And if not, leave your comments down in the questions below and I'll see if I can answer your questions. So then, folks, that's kind of what I'm going to be putting up for tomorrow's night. I want to just mention there as well, Gary Powell saying, if you run a training course with 6 people want to come down to Nottingham and have a play with a 3D setup, I think it sounds like a great idea, mate. I think the only thing I would say personally is in the current situation, travelling and coming to different towns and all of the social distance and stuff might make it a bit difficult. But I think purely as an idea, I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's perfect for people that rather than spending £200 or £300 to give it a go, it's the perfect way to kind of find out is it something that you would want to get involved in. I'm going to skip back a little bit up the chat because there is a hell of a lot of stuff here that's people are talking about. I'm just going to dive in here. Gary saying his Quiddy Shadow is better. They're about the same price, to be fair, mate. There's an offer on Amazon at the minute where I think it's what was it? I think it's like £49 off the price, so I think it works out about the same price as an Elegoo Mars. I might get a bit of information off you on that one. Something's just popped on my. I assume Roy Harron has just pledged on Patreon. I'm assuming it might pop up on the screen at some point. Thank you very much, Roy. If you don't understand. Thank you very much, Roy. If you're in the chat tonight. Flying Mammal, hello there. Saying concerned these printers are just going to make the hobby even more wasteful. I think it depends. If it's printing stuff that you're then just going to throw in a box and never do anything with it. With this, I think there'll be an element of waste, I think, in the early days when you're trying new stuff and that. But I think it will get to a point where it just becomes I need something, therefore I'll make it, if you like. Brian's saying hello, mate. Saying, do you need to know how to use the software? I think it's something that you will need to learn, but I don't think it's as kind of as difficult. I think if you're relatively computer literate, you'll be pretty much okay with it. Lord knows, saying it may seem like SLA can do both, but it really only does minis well, not terrain. FDM will give you great terrain. When you say great terrain, mate, I'm not convinced. If I'm honest, I would not be personally. I wouldn't be spending any money on an FDM printer, which is the plastic one. I'm just not a fan of those layer lines. It would need to be a really high end one, I think, to minimize those layer lines. I think I'd rather personally just buy terrain when it's of a size like big stuff. Anything I'll be printing will be kind of small scatter terrain type stuff. Richard, hello mate, how are you doing? This is for someone who's beyond horrendous with technology. How easy would it be to use one without wasting loads of money on resin files and a computer? I think essentially, mate, it's going to cost you about 280 quid to dip your toe in. The problem is that it's quite resin is not a nice product to be messing about with. You don't want to get it on your skin. But in saying that, if you've got the area, if you've got a space, rather than trying to kind of work in a tiny corner and knocking things about, if you've got the space to work in, if you've got like a garage or something where you could set something up, or room in a space in a spare room or something like that, if you've got space where you can set it up and do it safely, I think it's no worse really than kind of sort of dealing with anything else you wouldn't want to get on your skin, kind of thing, like hot water or anything like that. None of us panic about making a cup of coffee. You wouldn't want to get the hot water on your skin either. Arnold says, can you print a print file with either PLA or resin? Do you have to have resin files and PLA files? I'm not sure. I assume they're slightly different files, I think. Lord Maiden says, if you scratch build terrain and spend several days doing it, we would miss you. To be honest, mate, I don't really scratch build terrain for that reason. I'm not a model maker. You lot know that I like building minis, for example, isn't a part of the hobby that I enjoy. I like to just have them built and then I can crack on and get them painted and stuff. Scratch building terrain for me feels like a long-winded thing that I'm not great at to start with, but it's not something that I really want to get involved in either. Because I'd end up having to record it to make it worthwhile, so I was actually making some content, and it would probably end up taking the channel in a whole different direction that I wouldn't be interested in. So yeah, I think for me, the biggest stuff I'd rather buy. The smaller stuff I think I'd be interested in kind of printing some bits and pieces. Brian said, I don't know AutoCAD or stuff like that. Is it something hard to figure out? I think it's less like AutoCAD, maybe, because you're not sculpting stuff from scratch. The slicer software, essentially, basically, you just rotate in 3 axes the thing you want to print out to make sure it fits on the bed, and then essentially you make sure there's enough supports for it. In a really simplified term, that's really what you're doing with it. Lord Nova says, I always recommend getting an FDM printer first over SLA, because with FDM you can make quality of life objects as well as mini terrain. Yeah, the last thing I want to do, mate, is start making a million different things. I just want to use it as a tool for doing the job I need, really. VJ saying ISO and a UV hood, both pretty cheap and easy to get. Yeah, not. I mean, ISO's a bit more expensive at the minute, mate, just purely because it's the main component in hand sanitizer and stuff. And nitrile gloves have got a bit expensive because everybody's buying gloves and stuff at the minute. So 3D printing during a pandemic has become slightly more expensive. However, it is available. It's not like you can't get the stuff. Tony's saying they both start off the same, but the slicing software saves it out in a format. Yes, that's what I meant, mate. Lord Nova saying, with resin print, I recommend buying a wash and cure set, or does both, and it's cheap. Yeah, you can buy specific machines, can't you? Basically, that kind of like wash and cure, like UV stuff. Spider-Lord saying the resin's not cheap, but it works at okay value from what you get. Yeah, so it's kind of like let's say it's about 40 quid for a bottle of resin, but you will get quite a bit of stuff out of that. It's just that you don't buy it in small batches. You need to have a bath of the stuff to actually make the whole thing work. And you will have failures, yeah, 100%. Busey saying, can you use Android to print though, or PC only? I'm not really sure, mate. Are they Mac compatible? I think the printers I've been looking at don't even connect to the PC. They basically work off just a USB file. So you use the software on your computer, you basically transfer the file to a USB stick, and then you just plug it into the printer and press play. So I assume as long as you can create on your computer and the software works on your computer, if you can create the file the printer wants to see, I think it's probably almost irrelevant what kind of what operating system you're using. Barry saying, sounds like you need an RV to dress like you're filming the next season of Breaking Bad. I don't think it's quite that bad, mate, but you certainly need to be wearing gloves. Mask if you're in a kind of a particularly confined area. The smell might not be particularly nice, and especially exposure over a long term. If you were going to be sitting working there, if you were working alongside it while you're kind of waiting for a print to happen, you might not want to kind of hang about. Some of them have kind of covers over them that keep the smell down as well, and you can get some resins that don't smell too bad either. But certainly you don't want to get any splash in your eyes when you're pouring it around, and you don't want to get any on your skin, really. So yeah, just be careful with it, really. Nostock, hello mate, he's saying don't forget to like the live stream. Thank you very much. Be nice if, how many likes have we got? 31 likes and 86 people. Come on folks, you can do better than that. Yeah, Spylord saying the resin stinks, you'll need some ventilation. Yeah. Tony saying, yes, scratch build is a hobbyist thing and it takes time. I do feel that 3D is possibly the way to go for you. I think when we're talking about plug and play, I think 3D printing is more plug and play for me personally than scratch building stuff, because I don't have the materials. I'd have to go and buy a load of materials. Materials for building terrain can vary depending upon what you're wanting to build. If all I need to buy is the resin to keep topping up the raw material, if you like, and buying the files I want, that's more plug and play for me than they're actually building stuff. Paul says a hobby in itself is possibly true for FDM printers. If you're buying a resin printer for miniatures, they're very easy to set up and get up and run. That's kind of where my thought process is. Of all the stuff I've researched, of all the stuff I've kind of read into and stuff, that's my good feeling from it, Paul. And that's what I mean about, I think it's as plug and play as it's ever going to become. Yes, there's some prep work beforehand about the slicing software and getting your file ready with support. And yes, there's some kind of post-printing work where you're going to have to clean it up and cure it. But that's more just about cleaning something up. It's like buying resin miniatures and having to clean them up and give them a wash to get any kind of mold release off them before you start playing with, before you start kind of priming them and painting them. There's still some prep to it. It's almost the difference between kind of buying resin minis that need cleanup or buying just kind of sort of single piece plastic minis. It's just part of a process. It's not difficult, dare I say. David says, if you're brave, you can do your own models with free software. Yeah, I don't think that's... Maybe down the line, mate, if I suddenly get interested in it. But for me personally, I don't want to make it another job. I don't want to make it another hobby. I want to use it as a tool to print off those unusual things. And one thing with 3D printing that people might not realise is if you buy a file, you can resize that file to print at different scales. So, for example, I'm looking here because I've got these ships here that I'm busy painting up for Armada. They're 1/700th scale. If I want to buy an island model to be printed off, and I want to shrink it down to be the right scale for that, that's much more easy to do with 3D printing rather than trying to scour the internet looking for 1/700th scale stuff. If I want to kind of print some boxes or something, or bits of walls and things on a bigger scale, that's quite easy to do as well. Steve says, what's an FDM printer? So you essentially basically, FDM printers are the plastic printers, the ones that basically melt the plastic and basically nozzle it out, tend to be the bigger ones. They are FDM printers, if you like. Or PLA. PLA is the plastic that comes through them, and then you have the resin printers. So those are the two different types. Krabby saying, I think there's a place in the hobby for both scratch building and 3D printing. I agree, mate. Scratch building's just not for me, mate. That's all. It's not like I think nobody should be scratch building. It's just not something I enjoy personally. Luke's here. Am I right in thinking that resin printers are a bit faster because it does the entire slice in one shot rather than the PLA print head running its way around the slice? Yes, mate. You are correct. What you want to do is, if you're printing off two models, you obviously want to put them both on the bed at the same time, but you might not want to have them standing straight up because then that would make them lots and lots of layers. You might want to tilt them at an angle and do them in bigger layers but horizontally, because the finished height of the print, if you like, will be the time. So for example, let's say I put my phone right and I stand it up on the bed that way, it's going to take quite a long time to print lots of layers. If I lay it on the bed like that, it would print big layers, but it wouldn't take as long. I hope that makes sense. Just going down, people chatting to each other. Lord Nova saying, resin print is usually faster because the objects are smaller. The techniques for creation are very different though. They tend to be smaller, but yeah, it's also to do with it. So that if you get a bigger bed size as well, which some of the newer like the Elegoo Saturn has a bigger base size, and then there are some new printers coming as well, which will have 4K screens, and the screen is essentially what puts the UV light on. The quality goes up with a 4K screen. The current ones are like 1080p or a little bit higher, maybe even, but that's still good enough for what I need. Luke's saying, that cooking analogy is perfect. Being someone that cooks, I fully relate to the point you're making. Cooking for many is effort and work, and they get no reward. I'm not a big fan of kind of cooking. It's not something I get any enjoyment from. I can appreciate when somebody else puts time and effort into making a really nice meal, and I enjoy eating it. But like when I used to live on my own, I hated cooking. I hated just cooking for myself. It was just like, it was something that I had to do basically. And then on those days where you really can't be bothered, then you can have a takeaway, or you can go out for a meal and let somebody else do it. So yeah, that's the way I kind of see it. Really, it doesn't have to be a hobby in itself. John Estel says my other hobby is eating. I'm way better at that than painting. I apologise if you can hear that noise. It's just a tap running in the bathroom next door. Vijay says, did anyone recommend good software for doing auto supports? Chit-U-Box sucks. Yeah, I think there are other types, mate. I'm not as up on the software bit of itself. That's something I'm still learning about. Dax says, I think it would be a mistake to buy an SLA printer that does not have a mono screen right now. Faster prints, longer screen life. I think it depends, mate. I think it depends upon... I think the early printers certainly used to use almost mobile phone screens. The newer ones are starting to use mono screens now. VJ says it's a great slice of auto support function, not so much. Christian shared a link there for the Patreon. Thank you very much, Christian. I wanted that did come up on my screen, didn't it? Brian as well. Just there. Why didn't that flash up for me, Brian? Thank you very much, Brian. He's just there. Oh, I think you've upped your pledge, mate. There, haven't you? So let me just double check. I don't know what's going on there. I've got Roy Harron according to my phone. There's let's have a look here. Let's just make sure I'm not missing anybody out. Yes, Roy Harron. I don't know why it just said he's pledged $2. So thank you very much, Roy. It's not showing up on the screen for whatever reason. But Brian, thank you very much to you. Where else are we at? Ian says, finally out of my meetings, has Andy been converted yet? Oh, to be fair, mate, I've been looking at this probably for about 12 months and seriously probably for about 6. When lockdown started and I knew this was going to start becoming my full-time job, I started to look at it almost like as a tool to help me out. Could I make content about it? You know, like sort of like first time with the 3D printer type stuff, like sort of looking at some of the different bits of Kickstarters and things that are out there with 3D printers. It gave me like another string to my bow, if you like. But yeah, I'm not. The more I look into it, the more I just want to use it to basically, like if I need some bits and pieces relatively quickly, this might be the way to go, kind of thing. Daxian is really far behind. I'm nearly caught up now, mate. Ian says, I do my own support, kind of fun, plus I know all my concern areas out of the gate. And I guess it's one of those things that you certainly get faster with. VJ said, I have the Frozen Sonic Mini, and if when I get a new one, I'll get a Sonic Mini 4K for sure. I must admit, I've seen stuff from the Elegoo Mars. I've seen stuff from a couple of printers as well, and I've been really happy with the quality. I'm not sure I'd personally, at this stage, be wanting to spend more money as a first step. I get people wanting to upgrade when they've got a bit more experience, but for me, I think like £180 for a printer is still £180. I mean, let's not get away from it, but it's not too much money to kind of to dip your toe in. And I know the quality that comes off those printers. It's not like, you know, like when people start talking about like airbrushing and they buy a cheap airbrush and everyone says, oh, don't buy a cheap one, buy a good one, because you'll end up with a right mess and you'll think it's you that's doing something wrong when it's just a rubbish airbrush. I don't think that's the same when it comes to kind of entry level printers now. Lord obviously, I just don't do my own resin supports. I just wait for pre-supported versions, because doing supports is a skill. It takes practice. I don't want to put the effort in to get good. Yeah, that's the other side. But like I said before, you can buy stuff where the person that has basically sculpted that design has put. They know where the support should go. So there is that as well. People chatting. Brian said, I've been on the fence about getting an Ender 3 to do some 40k and bolt action terrain. Yeah, I think it depends upon what. If you're wanting to do some kind of bigger terrain stuff, I think it depends on how much you're wanting to do as well, because obviously you obviously need to do enough stuff to make it worth your while to get a printer, because terrain isn't that expensive in the grand scheme of things, is it? I mean, the stuff I'm talking about, like small bits of scatter terrain, isn't expensive. I'd have to print quite a bit before it kind of pays for itself. But then what I'm doing, I probably need more bits of kind of scatter terrain than the average person, I suppose. David Mackay saying an A3 printer can cost more than the entry level 3D printers now. Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. Michael's saying when you know what an 180 quid printer can do, you won't be saying that it earns itself back. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the stuff, like I say, Christian's been printing some stuff out for Tony. He's been printing some stuff out for Krabby as well. It's like, it's just amazing to see. And whilst I'm not looking at it to start printing out armies and start printing out loads of minis, it'll be nice to kind of for those bits of kind of scatter terrain, for those little bits and pieces, and that things like pot holders and stuff. VJ saying, yeah, I'm happy with the quality of the HD unit. I'll only go 4K when this one is done, or for any reason, until then the quality is fine. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. Marcus says, hello Marcus, by the way, says, I plan on making original miniatures and bits to convert other minis, like the wings on the AOS Vargeist. I hate the way they look, so make a couple of different pairs. I think if anybody's into kind of converting stuff, like converting minis and stuff, these can be a godsend for that kind of stuff, for building sort of small, you know, like what they called, like shoulder pads and stuff for Marines, or printing off different kind of weapons, or head swaps and things like that. I think those kind of things can be done really well on resin printers. And VG saying, sorry, Lord knows saying to VG, so true. If we had better auto support, the print world would be much wider for everyone. I think that's probably the next bit we'll probably see. There'll be some, there'll be some progress, I think, in that kind of support software. Brian says, I'm looking at printing big buildings like GW has. Some of those are $75 or more. Several printers could pay for one. Amazon's been selling Ender 3s for about $250 to $300 US. Yeah, that's fair enough, mate, I suppose, isn't it? If you're printing those big things. The only thing I would say is, for me personally, I don't think the quality of those big plastic PLA printers, I don't like those kind of the layer lines. It makes them very difficult. You either need to do a lot of sanding and smoothing, a lot of primer filling to try and kind of fill them in. You can't really dry brush them too much without sort of showing every kind of like sort of print layer. Washers obviously don't look great because they're picking up in every layer rather than kind of running it at the recesses. So for me personally, it's not the right thing, but it depends upon exactly if it's right up your street, it's right up your street. Christian just sharing a link there as well for the Goblin Gaming site as well. Thank you very much, Christian. Since I started sharing it on my Armada videos, people seem to be clicking on it, and it's starting to get used a bit more now. Thank you very much. I've also put a couple of links into the. I've linked to the Elgu Mars. So for those people that don't know what I'm talking about tonight, you'll see down in the link in the description. There's one for the US site. There's one for the UK site. If you click on that, it'll take you through, and at least you'll see what I'm talking about. And if you do buy anything from Amazon when clicking through that link, I obviously do make a very, very small affiliate commission. Where are we going? Michael says, only trouble you will get with the print is that you find you need to get at least 4 Patreons with minis. Vijay says, yeah, I can't understand, as it seems support is such a logical thing, something that computers should be good at. I can imagine it can only come a time. I guess the technology and the detail really has been in sort of making the software accessible, I think, and they basically it's like, oh well, just do the support yourself kind of thing. I guess you can overdo supports as well, can't you? It's not like a case of just support it everywhere and kind of cover your back. Ian says, I think it's going to be a boon for small games companies to be able to fill gaps of mission units or weapons choices with fan-made STLs until the company can put out their own. I think the problem with that, mate, is once folks have access to doing their own, there's no need for the company to then replace them. I mean, I think a lot of companies now actually do print out using a Resin 3D printer. They print out their master molds, and then they'll basically take the resin relief mold, if you like, from that one. So I think companies are using 3D printers now to create their own models and stuff. But I think small companies potentially who can't get up there fast enough either need to design their game around printing out, like there are some companies who basically have a game where you can print out the miniatures for the game, if you like. They either need to go down that route, or essentially basically they need to just get faster at releasing the models, unfortunately. Busey saying you could make and print exclusive BlackJack minis for competitions or Patreon tiers. To be honest, mate, you took the words out of my mouth as well, because I was thinking about doing some kind of different stuff like that as well. Like being able to print them and kind of send them out might be a nice thing to do. Like printing out little tokens and stuff, like little BlackJack tokens or objective markers and stuff. It might be another nice thing to be able to do as well. So yeah, I had thought about that kind of stuff. Brian saying that I hadn't heard that kind of feedback. I normally scratch make my stuff. Yeah, I said before, mate, I don't scratch build my stuff, but have a look online, do a little bit of more searching. You basically you get a lot of ridges because the way the PLA layers layer on top of layer. There's kind of like a ridge between the layers. Just watch out for it. Christopher saying, like the video, guys. Yes, please do like the video. 45 likes. We can get a few more out of this. Vaughn Wood saying, I think 3D printing is going to be one of those things that will remain niche. Besides tabletop gamers, lovers of tat, what would the average person see in one? I agree, mate. I think people who love 3D printing think it's the future and everybody's going to have one. But in reality, when have I ever needed to make something, or when have I ever needed to kind of outside of hobbying? When have I ever really needed something that I couldn't just go and buy much easier? I don't think we're kind of like we're not going to all start to be printing our own knives and forks and plates and all that kind of stuff. David Mackay says it's amazing to think that a 3D printer started off as a rapid prototyping tool. Yeah, and really they've not. That's still really what they are. It's just that we now use that rapid prototype to be a miniature or to be a bit of terrain or something. Phil M, hello mate. Says not sure if it's been mentioned, but Modifius has embraced the 3D printing world by releasing terrain STLs for sale to go with Fallout, Wasteland Warfare, and the Elder Scrolls. I didn't know that, mate. It's something I'll have to look into. I didn't realise they were doing that at all. Yeah, Vaughn would say, and they still sell them now. Gary saying, yeah, 3D print and play. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that, mate. There's a few companies are starting to go down that route. It's obviously the ability that they don't have to wait a long time for Kickstarters to ship. They basically send you the files, you print them off yourself. There's no shipping to kind of get involved with. There's no delivery issues to worry about. So yeah, I can see the attraction in it. My only worry is that it is very piratable. So for example, there's nothing legally, there's nothing, there is stuff legally or morally, but technically I could back that Kickstarter and then I could share them files with as many people as I wanted to. It's probably illegal, it's highly immoral, but I think piracy basically is a bit of a problem for those kind of companies. Stu says, if I get a 3D printer, do I need to start looking to upgrade my PC? Not looking into design models yet, but is the slicer software resource thirsty? I think it is. I don't think it's too bad, but it depends upon how old your PC is, mate, I think. I can see there's Stars and Steel, like 100 plus Starship models for free on Wargames Vault. Yeah, there's a few places, isn't there? Christian saying that they're quite pricey though compared to other designers. Interesting, mate. Yeah, so that's exactly the reason why people would buy the models and then share them with their friends. I'm not sure you could even kind of digital rights manage that kind of stuff yet. Lord Nova said it was so satisfying to print my own mini. I did no work but felt like I made a huge accomplishment. I felt like GW at that point. Even though I know what you mean, mate. There is that sense of actually sort of creating something, seeing something created in front of your eyes. It's quite a satisfying thing. Skip where we're up to. Regis saying printing a plate that's going to ruin your FEP and cost a mint in resin. I don't think I'd want a resin plate made. Maybe the plastic ones, but that's my point. There's very few things around the house that I'd feel the need to be printing out, which is why it's very much a hobby niche type product, I think. Gary saying Anvil Industry has its own STL Patreon now. Yeah, there's a few. There was a company contacted me quite some time ago now, and I forget what they were called now. I know they did some advertising with Squidmore, and they were asking me about potentially doing some stuff with them, but I didn't have a printer, so I didn't. But yeah, there's quite a few companies do it through a Patreon model now, where basically you subscribe to the Patreon, and every month you get extra minis and stuff. Gary says the Patreon model is the best business model for them at the moment. I can imagine, mate. Yeah. It also builds a bit of community around it as well, and you get a bit of community feedback about what people want to see. Ian says it's good that the model of patronage is back in style, works well with digital products. Yeah, and it's easy deliverable as well, isn't it? Vaughan says, I find there is copyright too with minis and recasting problems, so would there be a way for the files to be locked? I don't think you could lock the files, mate, because you need to be able to, unless you had software that was proprietary software, so you could download the file to the software that basically unlocked it. But I think it's a long way off that kind of stuff, mate. Phil said, I really want an Elegoo, but wary of dealing with resin cleanup and fumes in an apartment condo. I've got 2 FDM printers for terrain and such. The fumes, I don't personally know whether the fumes are like sort of poisonous fumes. I assume they wouldn't be nice, or whether they just stink. I'm not really sure. Somebody might be able to confirm that one. Titan Forges want to look at, Gary saying there. Yep. Christian saying Warplock miniatures. Yeah, Warplock's been doing it. It wasn't them made, but Warplock's been doing it as well. I'll see if I can just very quickly look on my phone. Yeah, Brian, your email's just popped up now, mate, saying that you've edited your pledge. Thank you very much, mate. I really do appreciate that. Let me have a quick look and see if I can find in my old email. Oh, actually, I know where they were. They contacted me through Instagram, so it should be in my Instagram messages. If I can find. Loot Studios was the company. Loot Studios. And yeah, it's they had some really nice stuff, but yeah, I couldn't help them basically. Brian saying, what about bits for minis? Like, I'm making a few models with blue stuff and milliput. Could you see a print of Space Marine's legs to take advantage of extra parts you have to make a whole marine? It depends if there's a file there made, basically. If somebody has made the file, or you are willing to try and sculpt it yourself, you could print it off. So if you wanted to do a custom chapter for your Space Marines, I'm sure there'll be some way to basically design the little logo, put it onto a shoulder pad and get them printed off. Either get somebody to do it for you, to create the file, or learn how to create the file, or buy an already made file that has something similar to what you want. That kind of stuff is fantastic. Gary saying proprietary printer and slicer is the only way I can think of locking the file, i.e. a GW type of territory. I don't know if it needs to be linked to the printer, mate, but if the software wasn't just, if let's say it's GW, for example, if they made the slicer software and they sold you the file, and that file was locked to the software and could only be opened on that software under that account, that's maybe one way that they would be able to do it. But I think it would need to get to the point where more people were doing that. I think they probably accept some kind of level of piracy now, purely because it would cost them more to try and fix it than it would do. I wonder if it's my microphone's getting behind me. I'm just going to move that around a little bit, folks. There, that might be better. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring it down a touch. There you go, and you can hardly see it there. That might be a little bit better. Where was this one? VG saying, I can't do the Patreon for 3D minis. Too much chaff. They can't read my mind, and I'm not paying every month for stuff I'm not interested. There is that as well, mate. And sometimes it's almost a little bit, you don't know what you're getting until next month type thing as well. I do get that. Spider-Lord saying the resin's more of a problem if you touch it. It's toxic, so don't go huffing it, but it just smells. Gary saying, yeah, Alex Huntley stuff is awesome. Alex has done the really unusual thing, and in my opinion, excellent thing, of trying to sculpt his minis the way he hand sculpts. So they have like an old world kind of hand sculpted feel to them. Some 3D printed like resin model sculpts, if you like, are almost perfect, if you like. And his I'm not saying that they're bad quality, because that's not what I'm saying. They look like they've been made by hand, which fits in with the aesthetic for his game, and I think they look beautiful. Spylo was saying, honestly, I would say that ISO smells more. You see, I have a download free stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's things like Thingiverse where there is a lot of free stuff that are out there. People generally just kind of make stuff and then share it with a wider community, because just for the love of doing it, really. They'll ask like for donations and things, but it's essentially free. Lord knows it's in there. Toxic. Your resin printer comes with a mask to put on when you operate it. Print in a ventilated area. Wear nitrile gloves. Take the resin seriously. Yeah. Christian saying, oh yeah, Loot is a monthly subscription outside of Patreon that tells a story with each release. Great for RPGs. Yeah, this stuff looked beautiful, mate. Yeah, but I couldn't help them at the time. Spoiler in there are files for all those bits which would not link because they're totally IP infringing. Yes. Marcus says, I'm learning 3D program right now. All you need is free couple of gigabytes of hard drive space and RAM, because 3D programs are resource heavy, but you can run them on a basic laptop. Paul saying the jury's out on resin fumes. People tend to err on the side of caution, but there's evidence to suggest the fumes, while smelly, are not toxic. They just don't set off. They don't set off air quality monitors. Yeah, and I guess err on the side of caution until we know more. But I think that's kind of what I'd read as well made, but I have no experience of it really. Like I've worked in places years ago where I used to like plastic welding places and stuff, where I used to do a lot of like resin fiberglass stuff, and it stunk, but it wasn't like I was kind of it was smelly basically. It wasn't poisonous as such. Thank you, Christian, sharing the link there. Gary saying you could still re-engineer the G code. I guess it would be if you need to. I think the problem is if you need to produce a file that then plugs into a printer separately, that's the bit that you would then share, kind of thing. So yeah, I think you're right. Everyone was saying, I wonder what the risk assessment discussion was like at Modifius when they decided to do the STL files for download, even though there are plans for a production release. I guess if they've made the prices high enough, they're probably making more money on them, because it sounds like they have. Paul says, ISO smells nice, changed my mind. Christian saying plant-based resin is really good for low odor, but is more expensive and probably just as toxic. Gary saying ISO makes me crave tequila. Pomsy saying potential game changer, but not for many years, I don't reckon. I must have missed Arnold's comment on that one. No idea where that one was for. Let's see where we're up to here. Phil says if there's single malt ISO, then count me in. It should still be fine with safety. Can't be any more dangerous than the stuff we use in our airbrushes. Yeah, like thinners and stuff like that, I suppose. Yeah. Luke saying, I wonder if you could have a 3D watermark to avoid piracy. I don't think nobody would want a 3D watermark, would they? That's the problem, mate. Brian says, this is definitely a topic I wanted to get more information on. I've been looking at it for months, but was nervous to take the plunge and fail. Yeah, it's kind of where I've been as well, mate. I think I know enough now that actually I feel I could take a bit of a leap of faith, and I'm sure with a couple of decent files, that if I get a few files with pre-supported files, so I knew it wasn't something I'd done wrong with the files, I've set the printer up right, like just to almost build a little bit of confidence to say, right, I know the printer works well. If I've got the right information going in, I get the right product coming out. And then I think I would probably start to do some like kind of self-supported stuff where I would learn more as I went. But yeah, I feel like it's not as scary as when I first heard about this kind of stuff. I don't feel like it's something where I think, actually, it's not for me, I couldn't do it. It's more about, is it going to be time intensive long term? I don't mind putting the time in up front to kind of save time down the line, but is it going to be time intensive all the time? Spiderlord saying one thing that resin printers are brilliant for is bases. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm thinking about as well. Just a lot of my stuff just gets like sand on the base and stuff. I wouldn't mind just setting it away, printing like sort of a batch of like base infills or like resin bases and stuff. That might be quite nice. Gary's saying there, it's down to making the act of piracy hard and not worthwhile. Yeah, that's exactly the point, mate. I'm sure if there's ways round it, people will. Like copying old kind of Spectrum games with a 2-deck recorder. Once you start to put stuff in that you can actually stop it, or you bring down the price of stuff so it's so cheap that people just don't even bother pirating stuff. Spider saying, yeah, most used for board game bits, Imperial Assault and the like. Yeah, things like tokens and stuff like that. I think it'd be great for. Redwell, hello mate, how are you? He says, I have a Mars and run a water washable resin. Love it. I've heard about that as well, mate. I've also heard the water washable resin is sometimes a bit more brittle, I think. But just from what I've read in reviews and stuff. Arnold says, GW is nothing to worry about, I don't think. Yeah, I think we're some way off them worrying about it, mate. I agree with that. Vijay said, I did design custom sewer bases for my scave and it came out really good. It's that kind of stuff, mate. That's kind of just to add a kind of a layer of something different, rather than trying to like scratch build fancy bases to make a model look particularly nice. Like I'll 3D print some bits and stuff. Perkins said, I definitely appreciate that the industry is improving and allowing more content creators ease of entry into producing models. Yeah, I mean that's it, isn't it? There's more ways to kind of, there's more than one way to skin a cat, I suppose. That Ian says, I wonder if watermark could work like 2D geometry, like the 3D object shouldn't affect print, but would discover an examination of a file. The problem is who's going to examine them. Like it happens now, doesn't it, with GW's codexes and stuff. It's one of the reasons they're moving their digital codexes to locked to accounts now. If you buy a proper codex, you won't be able to buy a digital codex in the future. You'll have to get it unlocked in your app thing by buying a proper codex. Luke's saying the only reason people had 2-deck hi-fis back in the day were for their Spectrum and Commodore 64s. Exactly, mate. Lord Nova says, I recommend the top Patreons, Titan Forge and Artisan Guild. Great pre-support models and nice people. Also my personal favourite, Pop Skills. I'll have to have a look at those ones, mate. Stu's saying, it's also being used in the financial services industry. Dirk saying water washable from any cubic is not brittle at all, more the opposite. Okay, mate. I think it was just reviews on Amazon I've been reading and stuff. Spider says one company had done a load of Katachan type models. Tony saying there's a great set of 3D tokens for Marvel Crisis Protocol and Thingiverse. See, these are all the kind of things that I'm thinking, like, you know, they'd just be quite nice. And because the resin quality is really good, the tokens and stuff would look good. Even just printing off things like measuring widgets and like putting my own logo on them and that kind of stuff. Christian saying, only thing to watch out for water washable resin is it can crack when hollowed. That might be what I'm thinking of, mate. Rather than brittle, it might crack. Luke saying, I don't see GW ever moving into this world. Yeah, I can't see them. They've invested too much into the infrastructure of plastic production, basically. Peter saying, evening all, just back from the late shift, finishing up his Space Marine Scouts. Nice one, mate. Arnold saying, might have missed a given answer. Can all files be printed by either Resin or PLA? I think somebody said, mate, they can be, but the slicing software changes them up into the right files for the right printers. Luke saying, I don't want warp drives from Star Trek. I just want replicators and holodecks. Are we nearly there yet? We're there, mate. You just need to wash them afterwards. Debs is saying hello as well. Can't stay along but want to pop in. Thanks, Debs. Nice to see you. Marcus is saying, to me, 3D modelling has an appeal, but I'm a sculptor. Because I'm a sculptor, but I do not want to keep buying clay, but it does miss the tactile part. Excuse me. I think probably a lot of people who are used to sculpting sort of physically, if you like, probably feel like that something's missing when they go to digital. But I guess it's kind of it's almost the way of the future from a lot of stuff now. Inza Nelson, hello there. So excited about the new Blood Bowl? I am personally, mate. I'm not a big Blood Bowl fan. I've played Blitz Bowl recently with VJ, who's in the chat. Absolutely love it. I've got a copy of Blitz Bowl Season 2 on its way from America coming over to me very soon. So yeah, I'm a Blitz Bowl player. I was more excited about that. Blood Bowl for me is not a game I've ever really kind of loved, if I'm perfectly honest. Arnold says, I feel stupid, Slicer. Don't feel stupid, mate. These are all new terms I had to learn as well. So basically what happens is if you have the file, which is essentially a 3D model of whatever you want to print, the Slicer software basically takes that 3D model, breaks it down into layers or slices, and puts that into a file that the printer can understand. So it's saying, right, print the first layer, the first slice, print the next layer, print the next layer, print the next layer. So when all those slices basically mount up, they make the finished 3D model. And for a resin printer, the slices are very different to a plastic printer, where the slices are basically kind of the route that the nozzle needs to take. So that's what the slicer software is, or the slicing software. It's basically taking a three-dimensional object and breaking it down into flat layers. VJ says Blitzball, woot. Luke says, has anyone here done 3D sculpting? Is it really difficult or can anyone learn to do it? There's software called Blender, mate, and it's free to do, and I see a lot of people giving it a go. I think anyone can do it, not everyone is good at it, but there's loads and loads of tutorial stuff. It's like learning to use Photoshop. It's like learning to use After Effects, Adobe After Effects. It's something where the mind will be boggled when you first see it, but just take it step by step and there's loads of tutorial stuff online. If there's something you want to give a go to, it's basically free to start with. Peter saying about a 3D printer, don't want one, put enough time in building and painting already, don't feel the need to do more work. Yeah, and that's the whole point, mate. It's different for everyone. If you're somebody that enjoys scratch building terrain, you might not want to replace this. Personally, I don't like building terrain. I don't even like building models, if I'm perfectly honest. And for me, it's if it's the choice between printing stuff myself or buying stuff, which one becomes the better option? Because it needs to be financially economical as well as speed economical as well. Arnold says, does that come with a printer or is it add-on buy? It normally comes with the printer, mate. So the printer itself will need to accept that file in a certain way, so you tend to get slicing software for free with the printer. It'll either come on a disc or it'll just be a download from the website. And Gary saying, you need to come down to my video and video my course like you did for Sophie and James. I'd love to, mate. Yeah, we should sort that. VG saying, resin slicing generates images, FDM slices generates coordinates. Yeah, exactly. A bit of chat going backwards and forwards. Lucy, maybe I shall give it a crack sometimes for shits and giggles. Yeah, I think that's how a lot of people start, mate, just for a bit of fun, see what they can do. Ian says, got started with Blender and got to making my own starships in 4 to 6 hours. It's kind of like how I've had to learn things like After Effects and Photoshop and Premiere Pro for editing and stuff. It looks mind-boggling until you realise, actually, I don't need to use everything to start with, and I'll learn as I go. VG saying Blender is pretty evil with its user interface. If you're getting into sculpting, I recommend ZBrush. Core Mini, it's free. Oh yeah, ZBrush is the other one I've heard on as well. If you can go up core easily, yeah. Brian saying heresy. I just don't enjoy it, mate. Arnold just donated as well there. Thank you very much, mate. No doubt that'll pop up on the screen as well. It's just popped up on the bottom of my screen. Thank you very much. Palmsy saying there, do you need slicing and dicing software? Only if you're enjoying the cooking side of things, mate. Maybe you need a slicer and dicer for that one. Oh, my throat's drying out now. Christian saying, if you're not already there, join the BlackJack Legacy Facebook community. I think we're very, very close to 1,000 people in the BlackJack community. Let me just check and see where we're up to. We are 14 members short for hitting 1,000 members in the Facebook community. That'll be quite nice to do before the end of September. So if you're not a member, or you know someone that's not a member, invite them along. You know, most folks in there know it's kind of a friendly community. We cover all kinds of games. It's not specific to one company or one gaming system. It doesn't matter if you play board games, if you play miniatures games, if you just enjoy modelling and painting, if you just enjoy kind of being around the community and finding out what's going on. It's a really friendly welcome group. So yeah, please do come along and check us out. Mark says, as of yesterday, I have a Flesh Eater Court squad ready for Warcry. Once I finish reading the rule book, I'll be good to go. The rules for Warcry, mate, are probably my favourite GW rules ever. And actually, Warhammer community site had something about Flesh Eater Courts tonight, so it's worth checking that out as well. Honestly, my name is back up there. The world is back to normal. Thank you, mate. David saying he thinks the Blender interface has improved. John Estel says, have you been shrinking, or is that the biggest glass in the world? It's a big pint glass, mate. Well, it's a pint glass. All pint glasses are the same size. But yes, it is a big glass. Also, though, I have been shrinking because I'm still exercising, I'm still dieting, I'm still losing weight. I don't know if you can see in my face, folks. Actually, I'll have to do a side-by-side comparison from like a month ago, so you can see kind of, because my face is definitely kind of like, it's less rounded than it was. Regis, after watching The Social Dilemma, I just watched that this afternoon, mate, I listened to it while I was doing some painting on my Basilean ships. That's kind of blown my mind, that, mate. He says, I'm cutting back even more on Facebook myself. I already avoided due to the trolls. To be honest, mate, the BlackJack group tends not to really have any trolls in there. You get the odd one, but very, very rarely. And I only really use Facebook to look around like the different hobby groups, really. I don't use it for anything else. I don't read the news on there. I don't put anything on my personal profile. I don't share like family photos and stuff or anything on there. It's purely for me. It's just a way to look around the different hobby groups, really. So yeah, I don't get caught up in the politics and everything else that's on there. But yes, I recommend everybody watch The Social Dilemma. Gary says, as usual, I've gone deep in with another hobby. I'm not far off building my own scratch-built printer. Got a design in my head that can produce scenery tiles in one shot. Wow, mate. I love it. Gary's saying they come in pints. They do, mate. Pints of water. Tony's saying, I got to play 3 scenarios from Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion at the weekend and can highly recommend it for anyone who's intrigued by Gloomhaven. I don't know a lot about it, mate. Is it still a legacy game like Gloomhaven was? Is it more of just like a kind of like a streamlined version? I don't know a lot about it. I heard it was out. I just don't know much about it. Luke's saying Social Dilemma terrified me. I was just telling my wife about it tonight, mate. Honestly, it kind of terrified me as well. It started to make me feel a little bit uncomfortable about kind of somebody that makes their living being online. Vijay saying, oh yeah, I heard about your running progress when I was still running. Congrats on that, mate. I'm getting there, mate. It's I mean, I'm not running particularly far at the minute, about a mile, but I want to be able to get to run that mile without stopping, and then I'll extend it to 1.5 miles, and I'll kind of build it up that way. I want to just it's my breathing and my lung capacity that I need to work on, really. John says you're less heroic scale now. Yeah, I'm definitely shrinking down. Do you know what I actually said to my wife tonight? I always put these shirts on when I come to do the live streams and stuff. And normally when I was a little bit more filled out, I didn't have to bother ironing them for the live streams because the creases kind of got pulled out with my extra size. And I put this on tonight and I went, I should really think about ironing it now, shouldn't I? Peter says I only troll when I'm hungry and irritated. Does that happen very often, mate? I'm hungry a lot at the minute. Marcus says, you know that some people like doing in the 3D printing community is printing mini anime and video game characters to play with, like for D&D or a Goku Space Marine Captain. Coxie, thank you very much for the donation, mate. He says, sorry, Arnold. Thank you very much. I've seen loads of people printing that kind of stuff out, mate. Arnold donated there as well just to get back on the screen. Thank you very much, mate. I don't think it's quite got on the screen yet, but it's on my screen here. Tony says slightly streamlined, takes you by the hand through the first 5 scenarios. It's 25 scenarios which form a slightly branching campaign for 40 quid. It's a lot of game. I might pick it up for that, mate. I might do a bit of research. If it's something me and my wife will play, I might pick it up. Obviously at the minute, like lockdowns kind of happened in the northeast of England. We've got a bit more of a lockdown. It's starting to get sort of tightened up even more now as well. So the lockdown's being tightened up. We essentially can't really go out and see anybody. We can't spend any time with anybody. We can't have anybody here to come and play games. Like even just from me doing my day-to-day work stuff, I can't get people over to play games and stuff. So I'm having to try and do it solo, or I'm having to try and get my wife involved. So yeah, I think anything that we can kind of play it together, mate, might be worth a purchase at the moment. Fiji says I'm always hungry and irritated. David Mackay says, so getting thinner is costing you more electricity from all the ironing you have to do. It means I got to put the heating on as well, mate. I'm losing a layer of fat that keeps me warm. Spylaw says, ironing, so that I'm staying fat. I actually don't mind ironing. I think working from home and being a little bit chunkier during the lockdown, I kind of found I didn't need to iron very often. Marcus says, I blame you, Andy, for getting interested, but I've been watching Red Rose Wargame and Warcry game player, so it looked super fun. Yeah, it's awesome, mate. And they do a fantastic job of the battle reports, the gameplay stuff as well. Luke says the 15 mil world of printing is really why I do it. Being able to scale it up and down, mate, is a big draw for me as well. Peter says, no, I only get hungry in the morning and usually done by 10 p.m. VJ says, hurry up and sort your COVID UK. I want to get there in 2021. You'll be lucky to get here in 2022, mate. Don't worry about that. Says below €1 does not give a screen name. It does, mate. It showed up there. It says you gave me 90p. Spider said, I think Jaws of the Lion is meant to be Gloomhaven light. No bad thing. I could handle that, mate. And I think if I enjoy, because Gloomhaven is something I've been massively interested in, but it's not a cheap game, and it's a lot of game. And if I can do Gloomhaven light and enjoy it, then who knows? I might take the plunge and kind of pick up the big box. Bit of chat there. And Luke's in Gary here, but honestly, that took way too long. Yeah, it's quite slow, mate. I don't know why it's so slow tonight. It's also not picked up one of the Patreons as well. That's come on. I don't know. I've got no idea why it hasn't done that. Never mind. It is what it is. So folks, we're coming up to past. We've got about 5 or 10 minutes. Is there anything you want to ask me about? Anything you want to talk about? Any questions on kind of content-wise things that you've been watching from my channel, and you kind of got any questions or opinions or anything like that? Anything you want to chat about? Any games you're looking forward to? Any topics you want to see on a live stream? Anything like that? Lord Maiden saying it must be Sabotage. Yeah, for some reason the updates seem slow tonight for some reason. I know you've donated again, Arnold. There it is. It's up there now, but I don't know why it hasn't come up on the screen. It might. I wonder if it doesn't come up with a little animation below a certain amount. I wonder. Brian says, on another topic, I started selling minis on eBay. I sold 2 clone starter halves. I color coded the units and made the box speeders interchangeable. The buyer said they were jaw dropping good. Nice one, mate. Busey's saying if you do €50 plus you get half the screen. I think when you donate, your name thing comes to the top of the chat, doesn't it? Like right at the top, and for example, the last one you did there'd be like a little blue bar at the top of the chat. I think the more you donate, the longer it stays there. I think that's how YouTube works it. Tony says, did you enjoy painting the Mantic ships? I'm absolutely loving them, mate. Like I said, I've got there's a couple of them that's over there. One of them's finished, the other one's kind of halfway through it. But I'm absolutely loving painting these. The quality, I've got to say, I'm absolutely blown away by the quality. These are resin, obviously, and the detail on them is fantastic. It's been such a nice change of pace to paint something that's not skin coloured or isn't kind of like a human or like monster type thing. It's kind of got me. I was even watching Pirates of the Caribbean the other night, and I was looking on like online to see if there was any kind of like Black Pearl like model ships, because I must admit it really did get me interested in just building something a little bit different. I'm really looking forward to seeing like the Empire of Dust and the Orc stuff as well. Peter Coon there, it's just come up there. Says you are very generous, Arnold. Thank you, Peter. There's going to be a donation war. Luke says, have you watched any good movies? I need some stuff to watch. What have we watched recently? Me and my missus. I tell you what I have been watching. It's not a movie, but a TV show. I've been watching Ted Lasso on Apple TV. I got a year's worth of Apple TV subscription when I bought my mobile phone. So we've been watching that. That's been pretty good. We've watched, what's it called on Netflix? It's is it called The Interview or something like that? It's like a crime thing where they basically like somebody's basically in the interview room type thing, and they've got the glass wall and the coppers are watching in from the other side. I think it's called The Interview or something like that. That's really good. I don't think I've watched any films though recently. I've started because I've been doing a bit more painting. I've been watching Gotham, getting back into that, putting that on in the background while I'm painting. The Tasty Brain Drain says Gloomhaven is pricey, but most definitely worth it. I was playing a lot of it with some friends before lockdown. Yeah, I know you can play it solo as well, but I feel like it's to get the best out of it. I'd need to play it with my wife basically, and I need to know that it's not overly complex really. Arnold's donated there as well. I'm sure that'll pop back up. He'll get back on the screen, mate, very soon. Where are we up to? Luke saying, any plans for those podcasts? Yeah, I forgot about that, mate. We need to get those roundtable discussions set up and get those done, don't we? 3D printing chat slow. GW Illuminati. Yes, could well be. Pomsey saying we think the new Warcry box may be coming for pre-order next month, mate. I think it will be October. We saw there's an audio like a novel, like a Warcry Catacombs novel that is coming out in October. I'd assume that it will definitely it will definitely basically come out at the same time. Busey saying, come on. Thank you, Busey. How come yours, unless I keep missing Arnold, I only keep seeing everybody else's? Where are we up to here? VG is saying, played Blitzball with Pete from Agents of Sigma. I said, you and Robin are up for a hobby roundtable. I saw that, mate, and I forgot to reply to you. Yes, well, I'll definitely have to get that sorted with them, mate. Spider saying, I wonder what the Black Friday releases will be. Lobin, so is there any games you would recommend that you haven't talked about on your channel since lockdown? If I haven't talked about them, mate, I probably haven't played them. I've played a lot of Dreadball. I've played a lot of God Tier. I've been playing Chronicles of Crime. What else have I been playing? I've been playing a bit of Pandemic Legacy Season 2. We've been playing some of the Exit games. What have I been playing? Anything else? Bit of Code 1, Infinity. I was watching videos today on Water Tanker. I'm quite tempted to pick up a few tanks because I've been enjoying painting these ships. I'm tempted to pick up a few tanks, and the Water Tanker rule set seems quite fun, so I might do some of that on the channel at some point in the future. And obviously, Armada as well. I'm hugely looking forward to pushing that around the table this week as well. Where else we at? Marcus is saying, yeah, losing weight is fine until you have to replace all your pants. That's where I see most people start seeing the biggest difference. Thank you very much, Jesse White. I don't know if that's going to pop up on the screen. There all it is. Right. Thank you much. I don't know whether you're in the chat. I don't know whether you're in the chat tonight, Jesse, but thank you very much for your pledge. Luke saying, what games have you been looking at for a long time but just not pulled the trigger on, despite nearly doing it many times? Good. I almost used that as tonight's topic, mate, funnily enough. Malifaux 3rd edition. Love the Malifaux lore. Absolutely love it. Can't decide whether it's just another game I don't need to get into. Mythos by War Cradle. Love the models. Love the idea of it. Again, not really sure. Marvel Crisis Protocol. Love comic books and stuff like that, and kind of like the Marvel universe. Again, just not sure about it yet. Batman miniatures game. Massive Batman fan. Batman is by far my number one comic book. All of my graphic novels that I've got are all Batman graphic novels. But unfortunately, night models don't fill me full of confidence, and their customer service is absolutely shocking. So that's probably another one. Is there anything else? Those are probably the ones that kind of spring to mind, mate, if I'm honest. VG says, next week Andy is going to stream with an eye patch and a bottle of rum. I must admit, folks, I mean, I know there's been quite a bit of Armada coverage recently, but the channel isn't suddenly going to become an Armada channel. I am going to be doing a lot of Armada coverage because Mantic obviously told me about this prior to everybody else finding out about it, and I've been really fortunate to be the first channel to have some exclusive content, and that for me is huge. My subscriber numbers have gone up through it, my viewing figures have gone up because of it, because essentially if you want to know about Armada, you have to come and view my stuff basically, and that for me is doing this full time. I need to do that, and especially when I'm really enjoying doing it, when I'm loving painting them, when I'm really impressed with the games and I'm excited to talk about it as well. So you will see more Armada stuff, but if it's not a game that kind of sort of piques your interest, if it's not your cup of tea, it doesn't mean the channel's going to disappear down that route. You will see stuff, but I will also be doing other stuff as well. So yeah, please don't get scared off by that. I know sometimes people go, oh, it's just... They tend to do it more when I cover GW stuff. I've had a lot of people over the years go, oh, it's just turned into a GW channel now. Like when I started doing a lot of Warcry stuff because I was enjoying Warcry, I'll always do lots of different stuff. So you might not have to watch every video, but stick around. There'll be something to watch soon. Ian says, topic suggestion, new games on the horizon expected in 2021. That was another topic I was actually looking at doing tonight. However, it was really hard to find any information. I think there's been a lot of plans have been put on hold and timelines have had to be rejigged and people kind of holding on to stuff because things are up in the air. So there's not a lot of information about stuff that's coming down the line, actually. Something else that surprised me as well, I was looking at kind of like sales for games and stuff. 40k, most popular game by sales by far. Second, Age of Sigmar, second most popular game on sales. Third, from a miniatures point of view, was the D&D, is it Nolzar's miniatures or something like that. Fourth most popular selling miniatures game, or miniatures, was Star Wars Legion. And when I went back over time, they've been in the top 5 for about the last 2 or 3 years now, which really surprised me. I was surprised because Star Wars Legion is not something you hear about a lot. When you do hear about it, it's not being able to buy the stuff. And I always thought it was just Fantasy Flight getting the usual Fantasy Flight not making enough stuff. And I think they're not making enough stuff. However, I think it's selling way more than we think it is, which is why there's never enough stuff to go around. I think they've got a pretty successful game on their hands by all accounts. It just doesn't really get played or get talked about as much as like something like 40k and stuff. Luke's saying, yeah, I'm going to use the free week to watch that on Apple TV. Looks amazing. Yeah, it's good. It's when it first started, I was like, I'm not really sure about this, but actually, it very quickly kind of becomes sort of good watch, and it's less about the football and more about the kind of the personalities involved. Something I've not been massively impressed with, I must admit. I loved The Boys season 1. Season 2, I'm really struggling. I think I'm like two or three episodes in. I'm really struggling with it, if I'm honest. Yeah, Dave Mackay's donation wars. Joachim says, interesting, although I'm not interested. Really tired tonight, so got to sleep. Night, folks. Take care, mate. Thanks for coming in. Gary says, night all, got to go. Apparently, I have to self-isolate now too. Oh, yeah, tell me about it, mate. Take care, and thank you for coming in, mate. I appreciate it. Simon says, just watch The Gentleman on Amazon Prime. Very cool Guy Ritchie gangster movie. Do you know what? I saw it advertised yesterday and I didn't realise it was a Guy Ritchie movie. Actually, I quite like his stuff. So yeah, I'll probably watch that. Mark says, I'm not listening to Beastie Boys, so Glitch is not coming from me. Barry says, watched Umbrella Academy, pretty decent. History, superheroes, time travel. I watched a little bit of the first series, mate, and for some reason I stopped watching it and I can't remember why. I'd probably go back in there and watch that. Luke saying, what do you think on the madness of VAR and handball rules this weekend? I've not seen him yet. I'm not massively up on football these days because I'm a Sunderland fan. I don't really keep up to date with it. I'm like American football, like NFL is more my sport. I watch when it comes to kind of like Monday morning. I watch all the highlights from the games and stuff. I have my breakfast and put the games on and stuff like that. I'm subscribed to the NFL Game Pass and I watch all that kind of stuff. So yeah, NFL's more my sport, mate. But so I haven't seen the handball stuff. I'll have to do a bit of looking into that. Perkins is saying, try Tiddlywinks, my daughter's again correct. Luke says, I love Chronicles of Crime. Have you got the expansions? The Noir one is fabulous. I haven't made actually. No, I've only got the kind of the standard one, to be fair. Lord Mason, thank you. You're welcome. Peter saying the exit games are the ones you can only play once. They are, mate. Yeah. He said, I saw somewhere that there's similar ones you can replay. The name escapes me though. Yeah, I think they call unlock, mate. I think the ones that you can play again. However, all you'd end up doing is just passing them on to somebody else once you know the solutions. The thing with the exit games is I like, they're not expensive. They're about £12 or something like that. So they're not expensive like for a night in, like me and my wife to have a game of that. And I like the way that you have to kind of like manipulate the stuff, like tearing things up. Actually, there's something quite tactile about it. So yeah, I quite enjoy them. It's a bit of a one-off thing. The Tasty Brain Drain says, in terms of complexity for Gloomhaven, it took quite a while for me and one of the players to wrap our heads around the rules, but after a few games we got it and understand it pretty well. Yeah, and I wonder if that's why it'd be worth giving the kind of like the streamlined version a go first. Luke says, Gangs of Rome is one that I keep looking at twice at. It's never really done it for me, mate, but maybe if I saw it played, or maybe knew a bit more about it. Kaylee, hello Kaylee, how are you doing? Marvel Crisis Protocol is brill. Yeah, You can get that starter set for some pretty decent prices now as well. It was quite expensive when it first came out. I think £90 is quite a lot these days for a starter set, but you can pick it up for about 60 now, I think. Perkins says, love to see Malifaux played. I just love Malifaux. I love the models. I love the lore around it. I love the card mechanic. I love the fact it's not just about killing each other. It's all the schemes and strategies and all of that kind of stuff. I just think that sometimes the rules, not complex, but you get a little bit of analysis paralysis with the game because there's a lot of options on the cards of what you can do. And I think if you're new to playing miniatures games, which like obviously my wife is, and that's who I'm having to play with at home at the moment, it's probably a step too far for her. She doesn't enjoy kind of that complexity and stuff. So I think it's something I might get into in the future, but it might take a little while. And I still got Wild West Exodus that I'm painting that kind of stuff for as well. So I'll be bringing the Wild West Exodus back to the table at some point too. Kaylee saying, yeah, I'd avoid anything to do with night models as well. Yeah, part of me wants to just pick up the rule book and just use all the miniatures that I've got from Batman Gotham City Chronicles and just use those instead. Vijay said I would say watch some back reps before pulling the trigger on Marvel Lunchbox Rainbow. I was interested, but I found the gameplay to be boring. Yeah, I'd like to see a good battle report, as somebody recommends, because I must admit the ones I saw weren't that interesting, but it might have been more to do with the people presenting them as opposed to the game, and I'm not sure. Dax saying, in podcasts, Matt Gilbert of Mantic says he's interested in strategic level game that would tie Armada, Kings of War and Vanguard together. I heard that, mate. It was on the Wait to Fire podcast, wasn't it? He says, I'm really excited for something like that, but do you think there's a market to support it? I think it'll be like an expansion book or something, mate. It'll be something maybe a little bit like what they did for Walking Dead All Out War. It'll be a book with some cards or something like that. It'll be more like a campaign type thing. They might put together a bit of a summer campaign and try it out and see what the feedback's like. But I think if they don't do it, it's something like from like a community, like fan made stuff would very easy. I can imagine kind of having a game of Armada, the ships coming ashore, sending out the Vanguard parties to kind of explore the area, maybe a little kind of Vanguard skirmish leading on to kind of like the bigger battle across the land and stuff. And I can see that in my head and stuff. Mantic have done a fantastic job with Kings of War 3rd edition. They've really brought the lore on. Obviously, I've got the rule book here for Armada as well. This half of the book is about lore and background as well and fluff. I wasn't expecting that. It was a 96-page rule book. I thought, well, that sounds quite a lot of rules. There's only really half of that is the rules. Half of it is background lore and fiction and fluff. And I was really impressed with what was in there, actually. Looks at Andy, salty sea dog birders of the miniature seas. Reducing, I was more talking about you getting into pirate stuff. Watching Pirates of the Caribbean is one of my top 5 favourite films. I love that film. And I always go back and watch it every once in a blue moon as well. But yeah, painting them ships up has got my pirate hat on. Kaylee's in there. There's a not Shadowrun game coming out soon. It's caught my eye. I tell you what I did see, Kaylee. Anybody that's into PlayStation games, The Last of Us, Simon have just acquired the rights to bring out a Last of Us board game. Quite interested to find out what that's about. Ian says, topic suggestion, how complex is too complex? What mechanics are complex that you like versus ones you don't? I don't know whether you saw the chat in our Patreon chat tonight, mate, about the Necron reanimation protocols rule. that would definitely be a good live stream. Vijay says, I heard the Legion rules are good, but I just find the factions boring. Legion is a great game. There's not enough faction choice, and the problem is because it's hard to get stuff for the game. That makes it even worse. I think maybe other regions like the US maybe have better supply of it, but certainly in the UK it's hard to pick anything up for it. Luke's saying, so Legion has basically been a top 5 since release then. I think it has the collectible aspect of fans as much as the game actually being solid. Yeah, I think that's the case, mate. I think it might be just kind of like fans and collectors. Peter saying, maybe Star Wars Legion stuff gets used for Star Wars RPG and other Star Wars games. Whatever the reason, mate, it sells well. That was basically what come out of that. Tommy Leon Blade, hello, says, did you actually have a chance to play Resident Evil 2 board game since Resident Evil 3 should be out next year? Yes, mate, I've got a review of it up on my channel. To be fair, the review did really well. I think the reviews had about 20,000 views on it now. I like Resident Evil 2, the board game. I find it it's very true to the feel of the video game. The miniatures are a bit smaller scale than I would have liked, but they are nicely done for board game pieces. Some of the kind of the like the room tiles and the like the bits of card for doors is a bit cheap. I was lucky I backed at a Kickstarter and I got like the 3D plastic doors and stuff, which really does improve the game's like visual appeal. I love the way it's kind of it picks up on things from the video game, like the keys to open the doors and mixing the herbs and stuff to heal you up. It's a pretty good game. I enjoy it, mate. I didn't back Resident Evil 3 purely for the reason is I didn't feel like I needed another version of Resident Evil 2. Basically, I didn't think, for me personally, it didn't add enough to want to make me kind of going back another version of it. Like, for example, Batman Gotham City Chronicles season 3 is coming to Kickstarter soon. I've still got season 1. I don't feel the need to go and get a season 3 version, if you like. Spylord says, with the boys read the comics so good. I keep meaning to, mate. Actually, I think I will. Barry says, when Star Wars Legion went down the Clone Wars path, I think they really turned a corner for the better. Tons of content for Clone Wars. Yeah, and I listened to a podcast recently with Alex Davey, who's the creator of Legion, and he says that since like Disney took over Star Wars, it's been a massive like sort of thing for them at FFG. There's so much more stuff they can actually work on now. Mark says, we need an Andy Dance Revolution channel. Luke saying Unlock and Deckscape are replayable. I want to get the Star Wars Unlock trilogy. I didn't know there was one, mate. Mark says, despite the new movies not being as good as we hoped, people still love Star Wars. I still like the new movies. Like, they're not Oscar winners. They're not in my top 5 films ever kind of thing, but they're good. They're good for what they are. They're popcorn flicks. They're sci-fi flicks. They're set in the Star Wars universe. I still enjoy them for what they are. Oh, Vijay saying it's the game, which is not that interesting. Yeah, maybe it is the game then, mate. Luke says, I take it all the force building stuff comes in the rule book for Armada. The force building's really simple, mate. Essentially, you need a one ship for every 50 points in your game. So that's to stop you just taking 2 of the massive big ships and basically just taking the big firepower stuff. You for every 2 support ships, you have to take 1 normal ship. That's just to stop you basically taking all the tiny little ships and basically like out activating your opponent. Other than that, mate, that's pretty much it. The rules for the ships, if you like, the points values and the weapons and stuff are on the cards that come with the ships. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, mate. It's not difficult. Mark says, I think Star Wars Legion adding the clones is a big seller because Mark 1 clone armor is super sexy. Luke saying, what do people think about Simon saying they're going to delay True Rang Legends a year because they're not happy with the game? It does suck for backers, mate, but I think in the long run, I think people would rather wait and get something good. I've had too many games that have come from Kickstarter where they've been delayed and still not enough time has been put into them. Matt James, hello mate, he says, love the paint job on them ships for Armada you painted so far. I was wondering if red would work for Battalion Sealed. Now I know. Yeah, honestly mate, I painted the dwarves that kind of tealy blue colour because that's what colour my dwarves are for Kings of War. I wanted them to kind of match in with that. And then obviously for gameplay purposes I couldn't do the Battalions blue as well because I'd have 2 blue fleets on a blue sailing mat. So yeah, I just decided to go opposite and go red, and I kind of tested a few bits of schemes out and stuff. And as I was painting them, I hadn't painted the little symbols on them, and actually just keeping them white looked pretty good. So let me just see if it zooms in there. There we go. Just keeping them basically white just look quite nice. And I've been doing a bit more work on the Abyss ship, which is the large ship. So that one should be finished tomorrow. And then I can crack on with filming the gameplay stuff. But thank you, Matt. Thank you. Brian saying, when you first said Armada, I was thinking Star Wars Armada. I think a few people are, mate. They said they've not called it Kings of War Armada. They want it to just be called Armada. But I think initially, we're going to have to call it Kings of War Armada for a little while. David saying the Mandalorian is really good. I've watched a little bit of the first series, mate, and then my free trial of if Disney Plus stopped. But we've got Disney Plus back again now. I keep meaning to start Mandalorian because season 2's coming soon. Fabian, hello Fabian, by the way, saying Legion Clone Wars is sold out, can't find a core box. Yeah, I was lucky to pick one up when they got restocked recently, but yeah, it just seems like as soon as they print stuff it goes out, and I wasn't sure whether it was just FFG with really bad release like schedules and stuff, but it seems like it's just really popular, mate. David saying follow the Mandalorian's advice and never take your mask or helmet off in front of others. Luke says yeah, good game late is better than a crap game sooner. Yeah, if it changes a lot from what people were expecting, then that is very different. VG saying the Mandalorian is Star Wars for adults these days. Movies have stayed like they were originally kids' popcorn flicks, and I think people miss that point because we've all aged. Like we look back on with rose-tinted glasses at the old Star Wars films, but they were still kind of sci-fi for kind of like for kids and teenagers really. Season 2's out soon, yeah. And Lucian, people need to look up the set they used to film Armada. It's amazing the way they did it. Essentially a massive projector screen. You mean Mandalorian, mate? But yes, I do know what you mean. It looks unbelievable, mate. It's the ability to kind of move the camera around in the background to move in tandem with it. It's absolutely phenomenal as well. And Tasty Brain Drain is saying, yeah, at least second Mandalorian, it's beyond amazing. Yeah, I think it's something I'm going to have to start getting into. I asked my wife if she wanted to watch it and she wasn't interested. There's a new Game of Thrones prequel TV show coming soon as well, isn't there? And I also saw that coming to Netflix is a Resident Evil TV series, but it's animated, but that looks really good as well. They've just released a trailer for that recently. Paul said, I don't think we look at Star Wars with rose-tinted glasses. The new films were objectively shit. I think we look back at the old ones, mate, with rose-tinted glasses. That's what I mean. I think we look back at them and we remember how we felt when we watched them the first time, but we watched them as younger people, I think. And the new ones, they're not as good, but I wouldn't say they were. I'm not going to get hung up in some of the kind of background lore and stuff. For me, I love Star Wars. Like, I'm a big fan. Obviously, you can see where the stuff that's behind me with my you can't really see it there, but behind that light is my Darth Vader helmet, and there's a lightsaber on the side there and stuff. I like Star Wars, but yeah, I like them for what they are. They kind of like turn your brain off and enjoy a bit of a kind of like sci-fi fantasy action. Vijay saying, yeah, virtual sets. Yeah, it's awesome, mate, isn't it? And Tony saying there's a Last of Us TV series being made too. I didn't know about that one, mate. I saw about the Resident Evil one today. It looked really, really what's it called? Infinite something it's called. Let me just see if I can Google it. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness it's called. It looks pretty good from the trailer. It's worth checking the trailer out. Right, I think we'll call that a night. I was going to call it at 10:30, but we kept on chatting. So, folks, thank you very much, everybody that's came in tonight. Thank you to those of you, the new folks who've joined the Patreon tonight as well. The Patreon is what makes all of this possible, so thank you very much. Thank you for everyone that's donated. Arnold, thank you for donating multiple times there. Thank you very much. And I will see you Wednesday. Don't know what I'm going to paint on Wednesday because I'll have done all the ships by then. They'll be finished. But I will show them off in a little bit more detail. But I don't know. I might paint some more Kings of War stuff, actually. I've got some of my dwarf stuff to finish off, so who knows. Anyway, folks, I'll see you on Wednesday. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.